everyone, welcome to another episode of Operation Battle Ready. Today we're going to be doing a paint review. And I've been asked to do this a lot lately, and so we're going to do separate episodes. Like each episode is going to be a different paint brand. And full disclaimer, we are not sponsored by anybody. So all of our opinions, there's no biased opinions here. We will give you the full honest truth. So on our first episode, we are going to talk about Scalecolor by Scale 75, which for us is basically our paint of choice. If we use one color or like one brand, it's going to be Scalecolor usually.
A note on brands. And when we review these paints, I'm going to try to go over their properties, how they work together, and what I would find a use for them for. Chances of any of them getting called bad are pretty slim. They're just different.
They'll have a different purpose.
But what I like about having a main brand, and what I like about particular, when I talk about how I approach the different brands of paint, it's going to tie in right in with the Scalecolor review. We have the full set of Scalecolor, which is manufactured by Scale 75. The paint's not called Scale 75. The paint line is Scalecolor. And when you get it all at once, it comes in this nifty organizational tray. What that tray represents are the different Scalecolor sets you may have seen, like leather and wood, and the non-metal metallic sets. It's a collection of those sets in that tray, and it makes up the whole range. What I like about that is it's a relatively small range, but it's got a great palette of colors. There's one or two tones I like pre-mixed for me they don't have. I'd like to see a darker brown in there somewhere, like a really scorched.
Yeah. Like a really dark, like black
burned umber. They kind of don't go that dark on the brown.
I would also like to see like a pink.
A brighter pink.
Like a hot pink, not just, because they do have a fuchsia, which it's good, but it's not hot pink.
Now, one of the things I like about this line is, though, even these colors that we wish they had pre-mixed shades for, can all be made with the range. I mean, if you don't like mixing colors together, Scalecolor might not be for you.
True.
But yeah, there's really no tone or tint that you can't achieve by mixing colors in the Scalecolor range together. It's a medium-bodied paint, which means it's thicker than a Reaper and most of the Vallejos. And when you have a thicker paint, that's a thicker pigment load, and that means it's when you thin it, more color will remain in that mix. So when you see us using our matte medium as well, as matte medium works best with a medium or heavy body paint. If you were to add it to a Reaper, it would actually end up making it thicker. Right?
Yeah.
So any color can be achieved, but we're professional painters, and when we like mixing colors.
Yeah, I'm never gonna just straight up use like with Reaper where they have the triads. They're great tool. It's a great thing to have, like just the whole set of a color. But I'm never gonna straight up just take the paint out of the pot and that's all I'm gonna use. It's gonna mix from one color into the next color into the next color, because it's always going to be way too drastic of a jump from one to the other. They can never get it quite. It's never going to be exactly a smooth blend through. You have to mix it together.
The key here, and again, when we get to P3, that's one of the things I like about P3 and don't love about Vallejo, is it's great if I have 300 colors, but I don't need 17 shades of ochre. 2, 3. So when you've got this nice, small, tight range of paint, and you don't mind mixing color, I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't wonder what colors are going to make my paint brighter. I don't wonder what colors. There's only a couple to choose from. And as you mix them on your wet palette, you know, you'll achieve the proper ratio. But it becomes second. It's such. I know every color inside and out. There are no mysteries or dark corners in the Scalecolor set. Every paint gets used and used a lot. Every tone is fantastic.
And really, when it comes to using a paint brand or any paint, really, like how well you like the paint, how well it's used, has a lot to do with your experience with it. I like to use actually some of the old GW paints that a lot of people don't like because they're kind of chalky sometimes and they're not good for blending. But these are amazing paints for base colors because it's just huge, very pigmented, and it's matte. This is so matte. And from using it over time, I've gotten better, and I can use it now with blends. And that's just through practice. Sometimes just learning how to use a certain paint brand has to do with just practice with it.
Another factor in Scalecolor, you gotta shake them. There's no way around it. You can add agitators. Do me a favor, don't use anything metal. Don't use stainless. Stainless doesn't mean it doesn't stain. It means it stains less. It will still corrode in your paint. Use ceramic. It's an old tattooer trick. Find ceramic beads. Drop those in. They'll be good.
Also, when you get the paints, and this is different, I don't know if other brands do this off the top of my head. When you get them, actually, let me grab one that hasn't been opened yet. No, that's totally been opened.
The tips are sealed.
Yeah,
when you
they're
first get
sealed
them.
with a plastic. You want a poker. You have to puncture it.
While I'm shaking these up a little, we'll discuss the bottles. They're pretty good.
They are. They're probably some of the better ones out there.
The nice caps. They get on nice and tight. I mean, once in a while you get a clog, but nowhere near other Reaper bottles out there. They're dropper bottles, so you don't have any of that GW spillage issue.
But we do recommend you can purchase this like at a grocery store or anywhere they sell like kitchen items. What were these? They were for turkeys or something.
Yeah,
right?
they were for like tying down turkeys.
Yeah,
and stuff.
and so it's just a metal poker, and that's what we use. And it's literally the perfect size for these bottles. So you can poke them just for the initial breaking the plastic. You can also use them to just get rid of clogs, which we use them for too.
Okay, so here we have out a little bit of sunset purple from Scalecolor and fuchsia. And I just wanted to show you a little a close-up shot of how we mix colors together. So I'll pull this out in between the two colors a little bit. And then I'll just come over here, drag the purple in. And where they meet here in the middle, we start to give a swirl. And we come over and touch our matte medium a little bit, add that into the swirl. Come over. I'm dabbing in the water about the exact same amount. I did the matte medium, and now I'm adding that to the swirl. And there we've got the perfect mid-tone.
Another great thing about this paint when it's used on a wet palette is some paints I've noticed will pull up or bead up weird on a wet palette, even not just wet palette paper, but parchment paper too. And this paint doesn't have any weird reactions to anything. It stays solid.
And as a bonus here, we're going to give out the recipe for my white that I use anytime I have white armor for these Infinity models. And what I always base white is this rainy gray color. It's a very warm gray. Obviously has a little bit of a cool brown in there. And then the main color I actually use for white isn't white. I actually don't use white at all for white. This is a paint called Nakar. It's a great off-white. and looks exactly like white unless it's next to pure white. And on a large armor area, I'll create this gradient. And then this is generally my base color for the armor. And then to create the highlights, I'll bring that up into a paint called White Sands. Which again, not white, just looks like white. Unless you put white right next to it. Okay, and then I'll create that gradient. And from there I can pick out all the appropriate tones I need when I do my armors. Now we're going to have a little sidebar about Scalecolor's other paint line, Fantasy and Games. This is sort of like their equivalent to Vallejo's Game Color line. Okay, this is an entirely different kind of paint than the Scalecolor. And to be honest, at first I wasn't sure I liked it, but we can put some of this out here now. And actually, I'm finding a lot of interesting uses for it. I plan on collecting more of this paint. Again, if I had just bought this and decided this is what I was going to paint all my troops with from now on, I'd hate it. But it's a really valuable tool in the toolkit now, and I'm starting to find all sorts of great uses for it. So I'm just going to thin this out with some water, so you can kind of see the color that it actually is when it's not concentrated. See, that's a beautiful dark magenta. So over here where we mixed sunset purple into fuchsia, we can now take some of this fantasy color and use that to thin the fuchsia with. And I think you can see the difference in like tone and luster between the two. The richness over here. These are very rich, very thin, very translucent colors. But they mix great with the Scalecolor. So I think adding vibrancy and adding depth to color is going to be a great use for this Fantasy and Games line of paint. But more on that as I get a hold of more. And now something I don't talk about very often, we're going to talk about metallics. Scalecolor has an extra external line of metallic paint, and they are Scalecolor. See the labels. It says Scalecolor, right? But you won't find them in the Scalecolor sets if you're looking for singles on the Scalecolor website, which is scale75usa.com, I believe. Again, not sponsored, but if you want the paint, easiest place to get it. But the metallics are listed under the Fantasy and Games paints, even though they have the Scalecolor label, and they are formulated more like Scalecolor paints than Fantasy and Games paints. The metallics that they have a standard set that you would expect: the golds, the coppers, the metals, and I'll talk about those in a minute. And they also have what they call metal alchemy, which are their colored metallics. And I haven't gotten too many of the crazy colors. I picked up, this is not a gold, it's actually a metallic yellow. It's a little different. It gives a different effect. There's a metallic white, but they have crazy metallic blues and purples and greens. And I've tried out all their golds, all their steels, and all their coppers. The gold is exquisite. The gold is the best gold I've ever put on a model. I've airbrushed it onto a model, and it looks like a trophy. It's a perfect metallic sheen. It goes on with a brush real friendly. It doesn't come out like spoiled milk, like some metallics can.
They don't water down weird, like how some metallics, when you're watering them down, you can see like glitter separating from the color, and now you've got this like watered down glitter paint.
But the metallic particles, the I believe it's silica, that's in the metallic paint does make the paint want to break up more. That's true of every metallic paint. That's why some of them separate so easily. So don't put it on your wet palette. Just a damp paper towel. Wet palette does not need that much moisture. If you thin it for an airbrush, it took so little, because if you thin metallic too much, you'll just mat it out, and that's not what we want. Or we would be using paint with metal flakes. Airbrush is super nice, and I hate the airbrush, but that was just fun. It was like gold plate. It felt like Midas. Their steels are great. They have one called black metal, which is a real beautiful hematite color. A good standard chain, like equivalent to GW's chainmail would be heavy metal. And then they have a speed metal, which is their very, very bright silver, great for highlighting the steels. And then they have thrash metal, which is a very matte, like if you're trying to paint realistic vehicles, like for military tanks or that kind of thing, you probably use thrash metal. It's a very matte, drab kind of steel color. All their other metallics have a real deep luster to them. This paint is called Old Copper.
That's great.
Yeah. It's so gross, dude. It's gross.
It is real copper.
It feels so authentic.
Yeah,
like
it's like it looks like a penny. Like when you paint it, and it's not like a shiny penny. It's like a dirty penny.
Like a dirty penny you wouldn't touch if you found it.
Probably not, but it's good. It's a fantastic color.
I guess if I was gonna complain, like the complaint is that it's too good.
It's
like they call it Old
good.
Copper, and with one coat, it looks like old copper, like you might find in a swamp.
Yeah.
Buried. I don't know. It's disgusting. But yeah, hey,
but it works.
Norgo players.
Yeah, it works.
Give it a shot if you want gross. I mean, it's a perfect metal sheen, but just the color they achieved is disgusting.
Yeah, it's like a brownish
in an oddly
green.
perfect way.
That's great.
Ugh. It's actually too. I don't like it.
Another great thing about Scalecolor paints, and a lot, it being as thick as it is, and when you use it on a wet palette, it has way more playtime than Reaper or GW paint has. So if I'm painting a model and I'm highlighting an area and I see some paint got a little too far where I don't want it, if I act quick enough, I can clean off my brush, leave a little bit of water on it, go back into where I painted, literally blend out with my wet brush the paint that I didn't want there, and it'll just slowly kind of feather it away. And it creates blends easier than almost any other paint I've used.
Yeah, I think if I was gonna sum up Scalecolor in a word, I'd call it forgiving.
Yeah, it's great.
It stays wet a long time. It takes matte medium well, which helps it stay wetter longer. It's easy to blend. It wants to blend. It's got a long working time on the model. You can go back and fix mistakes and kind of erase if you get to it quick enough without damage to the layer underneath. I like a paint that makes me think less. I like to concentrate on the art, not the mechanics of it. Yeah. And once this stuff is out on the palette, I don't really think about how thick it is. I look at my palette way less than you think. I'll be over here looking and I'll blend the color together and come back. Just because I kind of know where they are, I know what it needs to do. And if it's not right, that's too dark, I don't fix it. I just go make it brighter, and while it's still kind of damp, I can brighten it up. It's like driving an automatic more than a stick, really. As far as Scalecolor is costed, you're spending about the same you spend on Citadel paint. Believe you get more, but you definitely get more efficient use out of it because they're the dropper bottles. So there's very little waste compared to GW's containers. The sets, I think, are generally about $30 for 8 paints.
The entire giant set, which I believe comes with 60 something, 64 paints or something like that.
Yeah.
Is $250. But it also comes with a tray,
Which is
which
nice.
is really nice. It's convenient, just sits on your table, it's all right there, and it comes organized where all the paints in the correct sets are in the correct rows. So you don't even have to guess what you're like trying to figure out. It's all already out there for you.
If you wanted to get into Scalecolor, I think probably the best way to do it would be if you wanted to ease your way into the pool, is buy their paint sets. Each one is a great range. Just, whatever project you're working on, find out what that primary color is, buy the appropriate Scalecolor set, give that a try. In summary, it's an excellent line of paint, great what I call anchor line of paint. It's my chosen primary range of paints. Easy to work with, easy to blend, easy to buy at their website. Of all the ranges of paints that are out there, this is the one I think makes painting more fun to do.
We hope you guys enjoyed this review, and we plan on doing many more. And if you guys have any requests, or if you guys know a paint line that maybe we may not know about, let us know. And we have to thank our amazing patrons on Patreon, one of our patrons who actually requested this video. We love you all so much. Thank you for supporting us.
All right, like the video, subscribe, message us, let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll talk about it.